Hello, my name is Mariah Chante. I am the host here on the Gradually Well podcast. Thank you so much for listening today. Y'all, after this episode, the show will officially be a year old. And I just think that's so exciting. Last year was really special to me because, first of all, I had my son who turned one this year. And then later in the year, I started this show. So it's kind of cool to have had my son turn 1 years old and now also the show. So I kind of have two 1 year olds. Anyway, I'm just excited about the anniversary of the show coming up next month. I'll have exciting news. I'm trying to, you know, better it for year number two. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Anyway, today's episode is an interview episode with Kelsey Gooden. I'll introduce her in a little bit. But before we get into today's episode, I just want to say that I have been reading Kelsey's book, Yes, It's About You. Now, I didn't have the book at the time of the recording, so I've been reading it since then. And the book is a collection of poems, and it is absolutely beautiful. I personally hadn't read poetry in years, so reading this was something new for me, and I've been enjoying it so much. My heart has fluttered as I relate it to the words that she uses, and more than once I have found myself nodding in agreement or even smiling at the pages as it brought up memories of my own journey in relationships. So I've been having a really good time reading the collection, and I really encourage you to check it out. So, with today's episode, I feel that the conversation I had with Kelsey was really about learning how to appreciate both the bigger picture and what is presently going on, like right in front of you. The conversation we had just offered a lot of comfort, at least to me personally, as it was great to hear somebody experience some of the same things in life, but just from a different lens. I was also left with plenty to think about from this conversation, and it's my hope that you are encouraged by something you hear today as well. Enjoy. All right. Thank you guys so much for coming back to listen to another episode on the podcast. Today we have a guest, as you can see. This is Kelsey Gooden. She is an intuitive writing guide and author, and she recently released a poetry collection called Yes, It's About You. Uh, Kelsey has been on a mission to show that each person has the power to rewrite and create the life that they crave. And through her work, she's been able to help women connect and embrace with their most authentic self. I have known or met Kelsey a few years ago, and even just following her on her Instagram and little interactions here and there, I can just say that she radiates light, healing energy, strength, and authenticity. And I actually had the pleasure of meeting Kelsey through my husband because she's my husband's cousin. And her family has always been so welcoming and so kind to me throughout the years. So it's always cool to meet people that are like inspiring and passionate about the things that are similar to you, but it's even cooler when you can call them family. So I'm excited to get to know you more, Kelsey, and I'm so grateful that you have agreed to come on this show. And thank you for joining me today.
Absolutely. That was the sweetest introduction. I love that. Thank
Oh,
you.
good, good. You're welcome. So I know I mentioned a lot, like your book, you do some other things with I'll let you explain all of that with the sister circle community that you've created. And I'm sure you still even have like things developing and in the works. But just so people can kind of get to know you a little bit more, I know that you have a lot of experience when it comes to putting yourself out there. You have experience as an actor and having to audition. And then even more recently with putting your book out is both are very vulnerable positions to put yourself in. And I know a lot of people struggle with vulnerability. So I wonder, what do you think it is that allows you to have this ability to continue to show up and be vulnerable
Mhm.
despite fear or pain from the past being present?
Mhm. I would say I owe a lot of it to being a Taurus. I'm really stubborn. So
Okay.
it's something like, and I don't really like knowing, I really enjoy, what's the word? Overcoming like difficult situations. And
Hmm.
if something feels really uncomfortable, but I know it feels uncomfortable or scary in a good way, I'm going to throw
Hmm.
myself into it. So that's a lot of the vulnerability.
Yeah.
Also, I also think there's a beauty to with acting. It started, the vulnerability began, or my love for it began because I enjoyed telling somebody else's story.
Hmm.
And it pivoted to telling my story and now into doing my best to help other women tell their own. Um, and so the love of stories was a lot of it as well. Yeah, a lot of the willingness to lean into the vulnerability stemmed from that, I think.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. And I mean, that is so important being able to, share other people's stories. And like you said, it transformed into sharing your own
Mhm.
story. So, I mean, there must be, I know you were saying that you kind of enjoy overcoming like maybe a challenge or and stuff like that. So that's a little bit of personality, but what kind of things does overcoming or going through these things help you feel that makes you want to do it again?
This rush of satisfaction of being like, okay, I did that. So now it's a level up. Everything from this point up is, it's one step up the mountain each time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and the development of self too. I think that's so fun. I also think like I know you're a mother, and motherhood is something that's very much on my heart, and knowing that I want to lean into things so my children will have the most developed sense, like a mother with the most developed sense of self possible as well.
Hmm.
That carries a lot of what I do is carried through that too.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up because yes, like especially recently, and I'm a woman who like I always respected mothers, but was kind of on the fence on whether or not I wanted to become one,
Mhm.
and was just like never really connected to it. I think until like I became a mom, like especially as deeply as I do now, and that resonates with me as well, like doing the self work and self development so that as a mom I am not passing on
Mhm.
so much unhealed traumas and just things that could have been worked out within myself that my kid doesn't have to take on. And I was listening to a podcast you were on before, and it was so interesting. I hadn't heard it before, but when you said that correct me if I'm wrong, but that sometimes women can carry up to like 3 generations worth of trauma in their
Mhm.
womb, or can you explain
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. So trauma is, from what I know, I'm not like licensed on this, but I've done a
Mhm,
lot of work and reading on this.
mhm,
Um, Trauma is responses to trauma are stored on a cellular level within the body.
mhm,
So because they're inherited and passed down and learned as well, if we take out the learned and conditioned beliefs as well, it's inherited naturally through the body. And then the eggs that are in there
mhm.
stay throughout a woman's entire life, right? Like,
Right.
yeah, like sperm also carries DNA for trauma and traumatic events,
Wow.
but because it's replenished, it's not always carrying the same memory. Whereas
Interesting.
eggs are not replenished. And so they
Yeah.
are carrying the same memory of what the mother's gone through. So yeah, so those can be inherited and passed down from generation to generation, and that's a lot. The idea of generational trauma isn't just something that's conditioned or
Mhm.
learned behaviors, it's on a physical level as well within the body. Yeah.
Yeah, wow, I didn't know that. That is so deeply rooted. It really just, I guess, emphasizes the importance of people healing, because you very much in a real way affect future generations, your future bloodline and stuff. And it's crazy. I used to wonder, like when I was pregnant with my son, I had a kind of crazy delivery story, and I actually didn't haven't shared it here on the show. I won't go into all of it because it's so long. But one of the things, like I had to have emergency C-section,
Mhm.
and when I was going through all of that, like I had did so much preparation, like most moms do. I had a doula. I was like listening to a lot of mindset and just mindset podcasts and just really trying to get my mind right and prepared and being just holistically prepared for the delivery process.
Mhm.
And I had a fairly easy pregnancy. Like a few days before I gave birth, I had like walked 4 miles and didn't feel like I felt fine. But the delivery ended up being a little crazy. And at one point in there, during the emergency C-section, I lost my ability to swallow. It was so insane. They didn't
No.
know what was going on, whether it was allergic reaction or what.
Mhm.
And so after we finished everything and I was back in the recovery room, we're waiting for my ability to swallow to come back. When that came back, the doctor came in and the anesthesiologist came in and they were like, you were incredibly calm throughout all of that. They were like, you should go into healthcare, which is so funny because I am trying to go to school to be a physician assistant, but I am also, health and wellness coaching. And I just know I really internalized that work of healing, working through mental hurdles and everything. And I so glad I did because like I had no idea that was going to happen. And in that moment, I had that like in my toolbox of things that I could do, like processing through what was going on. Not to say I wasn't nervous, but being able to handle those nerves. And it's just funny because, like, sometimes now people comment and they're like, oh, your son is so like, chill, or he's not stressed out, or
Yeah.
he's like from an infant, people are like, wow, he's a chill baby. He's like, I mean, he has a lot of energy at times too. I mean, he's a toddler now, but
Mhm.
it's just so interesting. The things that people comment on are things that I was intentional about in my life prior to having him, throughout pregnancy, through delivery. And I've wondered, I'm like, I wonder if there was any connection between the work that I've done pre-pregnancy, during pregnancy, and beyond, if how that relates to him beyond just his personality. So it's cool to hear facts like that with storing trauma even in our eggs.
Mhm. Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, it's proof of the fact that this work works.
Hmm.
Um, it's it's a terrifying experience to have something like that happen to you, and the fact that you were able to approach it with such grace is beautiful.
Thank you.
And I really commend you for that because birth and pregnancy, that's what terrifies me.
Yeah.
Um, as it should, I think. I think that's fair to be scared of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but, while there is trauma that is stored in the womb, the the baby feels everything that the mother feels,
Hmm.
because when any of our trauma responses or high or low moods or reactions to things are impacted, it creates chemicals that are released. And I believe, I don't think all of them are felt by the fetus. I think some
Hmm.
of them are, but it does impact the baby as well. So if you've had a
Wow.
stressful pregnancy, your baby's ability to process stress, like the tolerance might be higher, but it wouldn't really be great for its nervous system.
Yeah.
So staying calm through the pregnancy absolutely helped, develop this little precious thing.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's so cool to observe, and it's almost like, um, seeing the work that the internal work manifest in a very physical way. And it's cool when you see it in another being. It's like,
yeah,
wow,
yeah.
I mean, that's amazing. So
Oh,
it's an out of world like experience that is so niche and but
mhm,
cool and validating, that this work is value. I mean, I saw value in it before I even got pregnant, and it's cool to notice those things within yourself. You can definitely have great experiences with this, of course, without being a mother. But when you enter new roles, whether it's different relationships or different roles such as motherhood, it's crazy to see how much of you is passed on beyond just like the physical, like, oh, he looks
Mhm.
like me or he looks like his dad. So it is so cool to say. I was actually just talking to my mom the other day, and we were talking about how quickly he moves on. Like, if you take something from him, like he's like, okay, whatever, I'll do something else. And it's so funny because one of my things, like I had an affirmation for it, was like, I need to be good about letting go. Like, just, and so it's so crazy. I'm like, for him, it's like no issue. And like, I mean, that is something I actively work on, but it was something that I was very intentional about too. So it's so cool to like see, like, oh yeah, I worked on that. He already does it. That's really cool to see as well.
It's so cool that it's able to be such a clear mirror for you too. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the relationships and I think relationships are our biggest mirror in lesson. That's how the book came about,
Mhm.
or our biggest mirror in life. And that's how the book came about. And the lessons that I've learned through just all types of relationships. But to have that be such a clear and direct reminder of the things that you did from your, like, through your son, through
Yeah.
everything that you are, that's such a beautiful, beautiful example of it. I love that.
Yeah, thanks. So, and speaking of your book, and you mentioning the kind of like mirroring or it being a reflection to you is kind of how it came about. So, I know you've said before that, it's hard to say when you started writing it because it's, a collection of reflections in a sense.
Mhm.
And so, but is that what the heart of it kind of came about? Like, the title is, yes, it's about you, but you're also saying it's a reflection. Is the you another person or is the you, Kelsey?
It varies. It's all gonna be through my lens. It's all, things that I've thought, things that I felt, things that I've experienced. So it's all me. It's my heart and
Mhm.
soul
Yeah.
entirely in a
Yeah.
thing. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think when we dive into relationships, it's easy to, as we grow, think that it's the other person,
Mhm.
to place blame or to put fault kind of somewhere else, whether for the bad or the better or worse or whatever it is. It's easy to point a finger at someone else, um, without understanding that we attract exactly what we are.
Mhm.
Every time we attract exactly what we are, whether that's, and a lot of times that's really tough to hear.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things I've been through that, I'm very cautious on who and how I say that we attract these things because it's hard to grasp that concept, and to truly understand that, like, it is for the betterment of yourself, but it
Mhm.
really is. Yeah, so because we attract everything, it's all universal, it's all one at the end of the day, so
Mhm.
it's a little bit about both of us.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I think that's great to highlight that it's all, from your lens and your perspective. Because sometimes it's, n- it's easy to project onto other people and say, well, this is what it is, and this the cold hard facts of it. And not to say that there are no such thing as facts, but sometimes it is just your perspective, right? And stuff. So it's owning that, your perspective can sometimes be a challenge, I feel like, for a lot of people to do, especially when our perspective isn't yielding the results that we wanted, whether it was in a relationship, and it's easy to cast blame and be like, well, whatever. And not to say that people don't do wrong and stuff, but there was another active participant in the situation, and reflection is a good way to see, is what I'm doing yielding the results that I want? Is what I'm doing attracting the things that I say I want?
Mhm.
Mhm.
And am I willing to own up when it's not?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Ownership of that.
yeah,
Mhm.
and make those changes. I was having a talk with a girlfriend of mine recently about dating, and it made me think and reflect as well, another beautiful mirror,
Mhm.
um, about, she feels as though she's been running in circles kind of with dating, to a certain degree, and is ready for, like, the person,
Yeah.
and then was about to do something that would cause her to run in circles again, and I said, "Look, like, at the end of the day, if you wanna keep dating, but if you want to continuously dive into this idea of the person or
Mhm.
that one person, um, you have to make changes, and you have to do things differently from this point forward. So just decide what it is that you want to align with and then
Yeah.
act on that. And it's not going to feel good at first. Like, again, to bring it back to the body, our nervous systems are so wired to keep us safe that when we do something different, it feels freaking uncomfortable. And we don't
Yeah.
necessarily know how to cope with it because we don't have tools for coping from this new place.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, that's so good. And one thing you just said there, it brought to mind, I think it was a concept I heard on a different podcast, but basically, we said we had to make a decision. And I think people struggle with that because, we don't want to be uncomfortable. So we're more likely to already stay in our comfort zones. And, not making a decision is still making a decision, of course. But the concept that I heard on the other podcast was saying that people are scared to make a decision because we think that life is just black and white a lot of times, when really there is way more gray. We think if I go ahead and choose this and it doesn't work out, that means I'm not going to ultimately get what it is that I want. So we get scared and don't make a conscious decision, and we
Mhm.
stay in that place of fear because we think that, oh, there's only one right answer. There's only one way to get what it is that I want or what it is that I desire. When really, and more times than not, there are multiple ways to get to the end goal or to experience the things that we want to experience. And even if the first way doesn't work out, like, if you're driving on a road and there's a road blockage, usually they have signs up for a detour, you know,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
there's other routes, but it seems like it's just challenging for humans for
Mhm.
us to remember that and like embrace that, me making one decision isn't going to necessarily ruin my whole life and ruin my chances of experiencing the things that I want.
Yeah. Also, that way of thinking as, this is something that like of ruining or success is very black and white as well. Like, of
Yeah,
thinking
yes.
and looking at that as, like, right or wrong, that's a
Hmm.
very black and white way to look at things when at the end of the day, there's so much fluidity in life that
Yeah.
it leads to something good or better, or
Yeah.
what you want or better. I really like that perspective. I've also always worked with this idea of, I've always felt that when we're scared I think people are scared of their own power. I
Mm,
think we're scared to understand that we are capable of having everything we want.
yeah.
Because when we have everything we want, what do we do when we're not chasing something?
Oh, wow.
What would we do if we weren't looking for goals?
Right.
And you would have to be open to allowing new goals to come. I think, like, people are gonna evolve all the time. Well,
Hmm.
those that choose growth are always going to have more growth handed to them.
Hmm.
But I think I've seen really great and talented people, and I've had these moments myself, just be so scared of actively choosing something that you become so stagnant until you're ridiculously uncomfortable, and then the growth's handed to you. So either way, you get it.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
coming. Like, you don't have a choice.
Uh-huh.
But I think I think most times humans are inherently scared of the fact that we could be so happy. And
Right.
maybe that stems from a bit of self-worth as well. Like, who am I to be so happy? Who am I to have all of those things?
Yes.
Yeah, so working on it on a deeper level has been a lot for me, and allowing myself to surrender to the fact of, like, I could have all of that and then still create new wants as I get there.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
That's also a beautiful thing, like with creating new
Mhm.
wants. I just had my birthday pass, and I have sometimes struggled with just like celebrating my birthday.
Mhm.
I don't know why. It was just like it started around age 22, and then like it was just overwhelm and anxiety and just all these things leading up to the birthday and then on the day. But this year, I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm going to embrace feel my feelings, acknowledge them, because I do believe feelings are feedback. That's my
Mhm.
thing. And so I'm like, I'm going to take that, but I'm not going to let it mean all these things about my life. And I think that was one of the issues of why I struggled, because I'm like, oh, if I feel this way, or if I use my birthday as a reminder that I didn't do this and I didn't do that, or whatever the expectations were, then I wouldn't have this overwhelming feeling, because when you use your birthday, or it's not, some people it's not your birthday, but these milestones
Mhm.
as meaning for things, and you don't even realize you're doing it, which is why I think I struggled with it for so many years. That, you think, oh, okay, at 25 I have to have this, at 30 I should be this, I should, and we have all these things, and you really have to get to a point where you're questioning um these expectations. Like, who told you that you had to be
Yeah.
this, or you had to have that? And I do think it comes from a mix of things that we see growing up, what we saw in our household, what we watch on TV. That, it comes from a plethora of things, which is why it's important to take time to challenge your thoughts and your beliefs and everything. Because when you create these lists of expectations with no solid foundation, of course there is overwhelm. So I had to challenge myself and say, like, let go of these
Mm.
things. It's okay to let go of that expectation. Yes, I had this expectation of myself when I was 18 years old, but 18-year-old version of me is so much different than 29-year-old version of me.
Yeah.
So, and I'm like, so I can let go of the expectations I had at 18 years old. And that was even freeing. And I think sometimes people forget, I did at least, that I could let go of that. But then also, like you were saying, I could create
Mhm.
new expectations for myself based on what I've learned about myself, what I know about myself now, what I want for myself. Like, we have the freedom to do that, but sometimes it's like we forget that we have the power of decision.
Mhm. I love the awareness of that, though, to understand that your birthday was so loaded for you. And I get
Mhm.
really stressed out. I'm a big birthday person, but because of that, I get really stressed out about my birthday sometimes.
Mm.
And some years, it sucks the fun right out of it because
Yeah.
I want it to be this huge, beautiful celebration, this huge, beautiful milestone. And while it is, that
Mhm.
doesn't mean that there weren't other milestones that are just as beautiful.
Yeah.
And the attachment we have to I also think it's so ridiculous. Like, I saw something on Instagram today. The first line, I can't remember what the rest of it said, but the first line said, "Stop living your life in terms, or stop viewing your life in terms of accomplishments."
Oh, that's
And
good.
then I thought about it and I said, so, okay, if I were to look at my life in terms of accomplishments and just in the day to day of what feels good,
Mhm.
sometimes accomplishments don't feel good.
Yeah.
Sometimes you knock something off the list and there's this feeling of grief that comes with it because you're like,
Yes.
"Wait, what do I do next?" Like,
Mhm.
that wasn't as satisfying as I thought, or didn't come about the way that I planned. Or maybe that, like, there aren't people there to celebrate that we always viewed would be there to celebrate.
Yeah.
And once we take away, not taking away the power of accomplishments, but maybe scattering that energy around to every day,
Yeah. Oh,
how much
that's
happier we would be.
yeah.
Yeah. If every day was a new day, if every day was a different day with curiosity that could come from it and all of the magic that can flow in it in between, you
Mhm.
know? Every day is a birthday, you know? Like,
Yeah, and I like that because it helps really release the pressure surrounding, like, milestones,
mhm,
and everything. And it just, I mean, who doesn't wanna feel lighter if you can? There's so many weights in the world that we take on, or we take on just because we think we should, or we feel forced to. So if you can relieve that, then, and appreciate the day for what it is, and not making attributing your value to the things that
mhm,
you accomplish in life, because that you're never going to be satisfied doing that. But I know so many of us have struggled with doing that. I
mhm,
know I for sure have. And it's crazy because, like, when I was going through this with my birthday, I was telling one of my friends. She was like, well, what'd you do for your birthday? I said, well, I didn't plan anything. But then I told her all the things that I ended up doing. Like, my husband has scheduled we're long distance right now, so but he scheduled a massage for me. And
mhm,
so I went to that. My parents took me out to dinner, and I hung out with family, and then I hung out with a girlfriend, and I got a new ear piercing. And so it was like this culmination of little things that I really enjoyed. And I'm like, and I didn't plan any of that. And yet it was
mhm,
one of the best birthdays in probably a few years that I had, from letting go and embracing what was present, what was available, and just really being in it. and taking that pressure off. And I'm like, wow, life feels good without pressure. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought it feels so much better to be free?
Yeah.
I love that. And how beautiful is it that you were able to experience like the fact of knowing that you can be caught if you surrender to it. Like you can open up to the magic and the possibility of each day and just being like, I don't know what tomorrow and the next day hold. All I have to do is show up with what I want, how I want to feel, and
Yeah.
keeping what I want to feel and how I want to feel internally in mind, and understanding that the rest of it will find you.
Yes.
Like that's
Yes.
such a perfect example. And that's everything at the end of the day, I think. I think we're on earth to feel good.
Yeah.
And I think we really overcomplicate it. And I think it's like I've said that to people before and they respond like it's the most off the wall thing they've heard.
I
But
can
like,
imagine.
why am I here? I'm not here to be angry. I'm not here to be hurt. I mean, those
Yeah.
things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to happen inevitably. Like I can't
Right.
control when and how they happen. All I can do is do the best I can to understand that like none of this is mine. It's been
Right.
given to me. And
Mm-hmm.
all I can do is align as best I can with what feels good as I move through it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. Mm-hmm. I'm curious to know. So I meant to ask this at the beginning, but that's okay. So there are 8 dimensions of wellness. I'll read them that I talk about through here on the podcast. And so I'll read them to you. And I want to know which one or which two kind of jumps out to you as maybe whether you're focused on in your life right now or just really resonates or maybe is your favorite one, whatever feels right. Okay, so the 8 dimensions you have career, family, friends, romance, your environment or space, finances, emotions, and spirituality. What kind of
Mm,
sticks out to you the most right now?
literally all of them.
That's me. That's how I was.
I'm like every single one. um, what's present most right now is romance and environment.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
Okay. You want to
Yeah.
say more about either one?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said earlier, romance is I mean, relationships in general of any sort, but I'm like the most hopeless romantic. So
Hmm.
romance is typically what finds me and is most prominent for me.
Hmm.
It's the biggest mirror and the most direct that I get. And I feel like I find the most growth and expansion through that and who I attract into my life.
Yeah.
And at this present moment, I've attracted someone that is on such a page that I am in awe of the fact that I attracted that.
Wow.
And it's the
That's
coolest thing
wow.
to experience, you know what I
Yes.
mean?
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's been really cool and a really beautiful learning experience,
Hmm.
and curve, so I'm just flowing with that. And what was the other one I said? Environment. There's something, like, stirring around changing environments, and because of that, like, I don't know if it's that I'm moving, I don't know if it's that I don't know. I don't know what that feels like, but
Hmm.
it's pushing me to find more home within myself.
Oh, I love that. Hmm.
So, not necessarily a physical environment, but paying attention to where I put my energy and my attention,
Yeah.
in terms of what home feels like.
Yes. Oh, I love that because connecting to what home feels like is big. And I love I mean like you, I like all the dimensions, but I
Mhm.
tend to focus on environment and space because for me it's a really good gauge of what's going on in my mind.
Mm,
I heard someone say to the effect of like, your room or your space reflects how cluttered your mind is. And I'm like, and at first I was like, because my room was messy. So I was like, no, it doesn't. Like I'm organized in here, but I'm like, mm. And then there's also a thing like scientifically, your brain has to process everything that is in its visual sight. You can't turn that off or on. It's just what we do. So that's why there's a reason why when you clean your space, you almost feel like you can breathe, you can relax because it's less things for your mind to process. It almost gives it a break. And the same
breath. That's why sometimes if you enter somebody's space or if your space feels super cluttered or messy or just busy, it doesn't have to be like dirty or anything. Just a busy space is like, whoa, this is a lot to take in. So I've been challenged with my space, especially with having a toddler now who I will clean and then he takes everything out.
Mhm.
And it's funny because I have met some people or some parents that will say, oh, there's no point in cleaning it because my kids are just going to take it all out. And if that works for you, well, I would challenge that. I'm not even, I would challenge that, but I won't right now. But for me, I'm like, no, I'm going to clean it up. Maybe not like, as soon as he picks something up. But for me, like at the end of the day is the best time where I just kind of reset for the next day. Because if I start my day with
Mhm.
toys all over the place, that really affects me. And I think paying attention to those little moments of feedback really do affect how you show up in your day. And I'm not saying
Mhm.
that my house or my space is spick and span and it's never messy because that is far from the truth. There's laundry I need to fold right now all over my bed. But it's like it just goes to show that paying attention to how your space makes you feel and what feels comforting and homey to you and really that it's not necessarily your space. The other lesson that I had to learn was like, oh, I thought home was just so much of finding the perfect place, whether it was like, the neighborhood, the things that were around it, and the perfect apartment or home where it had to have all these features. And yes, those are nice and they do matter, but it doesn't matter where you are if you
Mhm.
cannot make it home. And
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of internal work in creating a home.
Mhm. I love that. I didn't know that about the your brain processing everything. I mean, I guess it makes
Hmm.
sense. I just never thought about it. I
Yeah.
love that bit of information. That's
Hmm.
very helpful, yeah. I,
Yeah.
and you know this as well, my dad was military, so the
Hmm.
idea of cleaning up after, like, something, anything's anywhere, that's very immediate, in my
Yes.
family, putting things back in their place.
Yeah.
So there are parts of me. It's funny, I went through this phase last week where, like, we talk about inner child, inner teenager, and that type of healing, and
Hmm.
I was noticing something happened that brought me back to feeling like I was, like, 15 years old, and it was a very weird feeling, and then
Uh-huh.
the next couple days, like, by Saturday, I'd processed the feeling, and I look at my space, and I was like, my inner teen was acting up. My bed wasn't made. I had
Hmm.
clothes in the hamper. I had dishes in the sink. Like, not that it was gross, but it was things
Yeah.
I just refused to do.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, she's been throwing a temper tantrum." Like, that's what's going on. And it was funny to have, like, a physical reminder of it in my space to be like, "Oh, I
Yeah.
was really going through it." Like, that was her, and she
Hmm.
was, like, upset. So she's not gonna do her chores. Like,
Yes.
and those little bits of a reminder. I also do my best to, like, I work from home, and I do
Hmm.
my best to categorize the places that I work from in home, like the spaces.
Hmm.
Like, I try to not do anything on the couch, and if I do, it can't be too tedious. I try to never work from bed
Oh, that's
because that
good.
doesn't work either. But
Hmm.
I did work from bed yesterday, but whatever, I was just exhausted.
Yeah.
And I have this, I'm at a table now with, like, a little laptop desk on it and stuff. So this is like ideally where I would be. Um, but my apartment complex just updated their clubhouse and there's workspaces in there. And I was just down there earlier today. I got so much done in 40 minutes.
Wow.
Just
Uh-huh.
being like away versus like, trying to do it on the couch or trying to do
Yes.
it on the table. It's a game changer. Not just
Yeah.
for productivity, but for like the space and like to separate the spaces and the versions of you.
Yes.
It's huge.
It is. It is.
Yeah, it impacts so much. Like your space is a lot, and it's a very direct reminder of where I am at internally.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a really bright mirror for you, for me.
Right, right, me too. And I
Mhm,
like to use personally, I like to use it as like when my mind is just all over the place and I don't feel right. It's one of the things that I like to keep in my
mhm,
toolbox of things to get myself together and just get clarity. It's like, okay, when I don't know what to do and I'm just overwhelmed or anxious or something, I'm like, well, I'm not naturally one of those like, oh, cleaning makes me feel good person. I don't like
Mhm.
to clean,
Mhm.
but I do like the benefits of cleaning. And I grew up, my dad was military as well. So like sometimes I feel like maybe in my earlier years, once I became adult and had more freedom, I almost like rebelled against
Yeah,
cleaning. Like, I
yeah.
don't have to do this now. But like it's crazy as like, you get older where you're like, oh no, I want to do this because I know it helps me. You may not
Mhm.
ever like articulate it that way in a sentence, but it's something that you've come to know about yourself. And it's cool. I've had a conversation with people before with like redefining what you as an adult want your home to feel like compared to what your childhood home felt like. Like you don't have to make your home feel like how your parents had your home feel because it's now your home. But sometimes we think we do. There's just this unspoken like, well, that's how I was raised, so this is supposed to be this way and this is supposed to. And I'm like, but is that working for you? How do you feel about that? If it feels great for you and aligns with who you are, absolutely do that, embrace that. But if it doesn't, it's okay to do what we said earlier, let go of that expectation and create a new one.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's the same, it's a visual representation of allowing ourselves to question
Hmm.
everything that was instilled in us. And that
Yeah.
questioning is so powerful. Like
Hmm.
choosing to just pick and choose what works for you.
Yeah.
That's yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Questions are okay. And it's funny, I know it sounds maybe silly to say that, but sometimes some people are raised or have this idea that questioning is bad
Yeah.
or like I'm not going to question it, and you may have been directly told that at some point, or you may have just subconsciously learned that and it became a subconscious belief that you held. But it is absolutely okay to question, and I think that's how you can gain a lot of clarity and insight. If you want to expedite things, you should probably ask some questions.
Yeah. Yeah. It
So
clears up a lot of things asking questions. It really does.
yeah.
Yeah.
um so I also wanted to ask, with your journey, and not just career wise but just in life, things that you've learned, what's something that has stuck out to you, or a lesson that you've learned over time that has really impacted how you live your life today?
Hmm. I've learned so many lessons on such a regular basis.
Right. Right.
Um, they just keep coming. But for right now, I'm moving through the idea of enjoying and embracing slowness, honoring
Mm,
slowness. I
yeah.
saw something recently that said, slow is smooth and smooth is fast,
Ooh.
right?
Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. I'm gonna write that down. That's
Mhm.
good.
Right? Yeah, so that's been a big one, especially recently, just trusting that everything comes as it should and
Hmm.
allowing myself to slow down and enjoy, like, savor whatever it is that's going on, whether it be, good or tricky or, you know, whatever it is, just allowing myself to process and dive into it has been it's been a
Wow.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that because it just reminded me that, like, I struggle with slowing down as
Mhm.
well. And for me at least, I think it came from perspective of not thinking, a perspective of lack, like not
Mhm.
thinking I had to move fast, I had to move right then and there. There was always a sense of urgency because I was gonna miss out, or abundance mindset. I did not have an
Mhm.
abundance mindset. So I'm like, I need to go, 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 and I needed to always be pushing forward, next thing, next thing, next thing. So I could acknowledge like good things and think that I was enjoying things, but I really wasn't savoring and being super present. And I
Mhm.
think because there was that, belief of there's not enough.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, I've found a lot that, like, when things are good, and this comes from so much trauma and so many other things, but when when things are good, I get nervous and wait for the other shoe to drop.
Yes. You like
I'm
hold
like,
your breath,
how
like,
sad is
is
it that
it too
there's a
good?
cap? Yeah, like, there's a cap on how much goodness we think we can feel
Yeah.
and experience and be blessed with.
Yes.
And it's not even in the good, not even just in the good things, I think. I think it is sitting with the uncomfortable as well and allowing myself to slow down and be still with it. that's really where I see the idea of smooth is, or slow is smooth and smooth is fast. That's
Uh-huh.
where I see the idea of me processing it in that same
Yeah.
train of thought really shine through, is when something's uncomfortable, allowing myself to hold still and allowing it to flow. It's very steady and smooth the way it processes itself, and it's done.
Yes, and it's done.
Yeah, it's done. I'm out of there. It's great. Like, it was just
Right.
a moment. Yeah.
Because like you were saying earlier, like, when it comes to growth, sometimes you can either choose to embrace it or you cannot, but it's coming either way. And it's like, sometimes it's a matter of, um, is this lesson going to take you a shorter amount of time? Or are you going to be harping on the same lesson for years and years and years? So it's, yeah, when are you going to embrace the growth? And sometimes you don't have to always look for the quick route and but being present and slowing down and embracing the now and believing that what's for you is for you and there is enough for you at every point in your life and in every sense, that you don't have to rush to things or skirt around, and you're still going to be okay. You're going to be more, you can be more than okay. You can still thrive moving at a pace that is very present and slower than the typical fast rate that we tend to move at.
Yeah. Yeah. The stillness of it all. A
Yeah.
friend of mine and myself are actually, like, we're doing a retreat in October
Hmm.
specified for the idea of slowing down. Like, that was something that the two of us had been talking about recently, is like, I'm tired. I've done
Yeah.
so much recently. I'm tired. And like, I think people, and I think women, how do I word this? Like, I think women don't really have a space to hold still comfortably very often. I
Yeah.
think, and especially in sisterhood and in community, that's almost
Yes.
impossible to find these days.
Right.
Whereas it's something that, like, is in our ancestry that used to happen all the freaking time, you know?
Yeah.
Women were in community and holding still and holding circle and talking to each other and recouping and recovering in that manner.
Hmm.
And that's something that she and I do, like, when it's just the two of us and stuff, so we just open it up to other people, but having this idea of, like, I've done the work and now I'm real tired and I just need to, like, pour into myself and other women, and that's it. Like, just be. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
Yes. Oh, that is so good. And I've been seeing your stories about that and posts about that. And I'm like, that is so needed.
Mm,
And, it's not going to be full with a bunch of things to do because, and people sometimes take retreats and vacations and we fill it up with a bunch of things. And then we
mm.
come back dreading to go back to our day to day because we never got
Rested.
restored. We never
Mhm.
embraced the rest part of that. And, there's a lot attached to that with reasons why, maybe you feel guilty about not being productive. But I'm like, oh, rest is productive. So, but we don't think that anymore. Um, it's crazy. I had did it was like I thought, just maybe a silly would you rather question on a couple of episodes ago, and I was asking people, would they rather have more time or energy? And I was like, if you would have asked me to bet $100, I definitely would have said, oh, people are going to say more time.
Mm,
More people said energy. They'd rather
mm,
have more energy. And I was like blown away by that. But when I thought about it, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, because we all wear so many different hats and or we feel like we have to wear so many different hats. And we're showing up for things and there's always this need to do stuff or we feel like we're not doing enough. And we're go, 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 go. And people say they don't have the energy to do the things that they care about. And to me, I'm like, man, that's a really maybe an opportunity to challenge what you're spending your energy on.
yep.
And
That's so good.
I know that typically that gets a defensive response because it's just like, well, I have to do these things. I have to do, we're adults and we have to pay bills. You have to work. You have to, I get it, but also I still would challenge it because the things that we think we have to do and the ways that we have to do them, there's often more room, wiggle room than what we think. I think sometimes we just have to be open to it, and open to it not looking the way that you initially expected, let go of the previous expectations in order and create new ones.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that's, of course, easy to do, but realizing that so many people need more energy or want more energy or don't feel like they have the energy to live the kind of life that they want to, I think is very telling of how we treat rest and recovery and how we value it.
Yeah, I mean, that's such an interesting topic. I love
Mhm.
that question so much, and I did see that when you posted that, and it did stop me for a second. I was like, "Oh, time."
That's what I
Like, I
said.
was like, "Yeah, why not? Like, why wouldn't I just want more time? I would love more time to sleep. Like,
Yes.
that's fine. I'd love more time to do nothing."
Mhm.
Um, it's so many things want to come out right now. I have had so many seasons of myself, and in a lot of them, I have found myself really pushing through, striving for something,
Mhm.
chasing something, and then like celebrating the fact that I'm chasing something. And if I'm
Mm.
chasing something, I'm not meeting something where it's at.
Right.
It's not meeting me where I'm at if I'm chasing something. And we
Yeah.
put this idea of hard work on such a pedestal nowadays. Not even nowadays, it's been a while now at this point.
Yeah.
People keep saying today's society. It's not like it's
It's
not.
not new.
Yeah, it's not new. It's very ingrained just now. But especially in America, and I was also watching Eat, Pray, Love last week, and
Mhm.
there was something in there. There's a scene where she's in Italy in a barber shop, and they're saying something like, an American passes a Budweiser billboard or a Miller Lite billboard that says it's Miller time when they get off work, and they go, "Yeah, I've earned it. It's Miller time." An Italian passes by a Miller time and says, "It's Miller time." And I go, and they say, "Yes, because I'm alive. It's Miller time."
Wow.
Rather than just it being goal oriented. And that's
Mhm.
celebrating your life in terms of accomplishment, right?
Mhm.
How much we can knock off our to-do list is inherently, in society standards, ingrained in our self-worth,
Yeah.
in our value, and how you spend your time is what you value. And
Yes.
there's nothing that's wrong with, you know, enjoying what you do. But
Yeah.
I think we need to take the term hard work. Work is work. It doesn't have
Work
to
is
be
work.
hard.
It doesn't have to be hard.
No, it doesn't have to be like hard. And I've started this week with posting and creating things with the retreat because it's supposed to be like a rejuvenating and fun experience for us. Kelsey, my friend that is also named
Mhm.
Kelsey, that is hosting with me, she and I have been very adamant with each other that we don't really want to put each other on a timeline for things that we get done. We want it to come from
Ooh.
a place of like we only create the promotional assets, we only send the emails and stuff when it feels fun to do because that's the
Oh.
energy of the retreat.
Yeah.
So we're like, we're not working from a space of I have to do this anymore.
Yes.
We launched, that was the only deadline that we had given ourselves, and that's the only deadline there is until it happens.
Yeah.
And working from that has made this week so much more fun
Mhm.
for the things that I get to create, the things I get to do today. Like today, I was like, oh, I have to put up the Eventbrite, and I have to look over something she wrote, and I have to get this flyer together or whatever it was. And then I thought, and I was like, wow, these are all things I'm excited to do that is quote unquote work. None of it's
Yeah.
work because it's fun. It's a fun way to fill my day. And there are energy draining experiences and energy giving ones. And I don't think people understand that your work can be an energy giving one.
Right.
And it should be because you spend so much time there.
Right. A lot of people spend more time there than anywhere else in the week, especially if you're
Yeah.
working a typical 9 to 5. Well, not even especially because typically entrepreneurs work not just the 40 hours, they work a lot more than that. So
Yeah.
most people, if you're working, you spend so much time there. So why not incorporate fun? And it's not bad if it is fun. And like we were saying earlier, sometimes, you're like, is this right for me to be enjoying this? You kind of wait for the other shoe to drop because we're not used to that. And there's this subconscious expectation that work or whatever it is we're experiencing should not be enjoyable, or something's wrong or we have to earn it, like I know unwinding from the day is like, okay, well, I caught myself actually the other day. I was saying like things that I did that day. Like, I'm like, okay, I did this, I did that. And I was like feeling myself being proud. Or on other days, it's been like, oh, I've only done these three things. And I'm like, well, that's still progress. And just because I do 7 things one day does not mean that it's that day was more valuable than the day I did 3 things. And
Mhm.
really evaluating what I place my value on. And that's, again, I think associating my worth with productivity is not helpful or healthy. And I'm so glad that there are people like, you that are challenging that, helping people work through that and guiding them through those feelings and willing to have conversations to challenge that too. Because I still think, while there are people like you and then like myself that will talk about these things, there are very much people that are still saying the opposite, and encouraging that just hustle lifestyle
Mhm.
that, and I'm like, you can work well instead of work hard and have lots of benefits with it. And I'm like, that's why I think doing things that are aligned for you is going to yield the benefits that you think you need to work hard for.
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know but we just don't see that often, so we only have the narrative that you need to work hard to enjoy your life, when that's not necessarily the case. So you don't always have to have a delayed sense of enjoyment in the work you do and the life that you live. There's actually enjoyment and joy available right now.
Mhm. I
Mhm.
love that, and that's an interesting point too about how rare it is to see people enjoying. I don't know how to word it. How rare it is to see people not necessarily placing their self-worth in what they do or their accomplishments.
Yeah.
It is very rare because encouraging people to accomplish more is such a billion-dollar industry. Like, we're not gonna
Yes.
see it, and the people that don't place their self-worth in the accomplishments don't have anything to scream from the rooftops about, really, except for how happy they are. And how
Yeah.
boring is it to see somebody happy?
Right.
It's
Right.
real boring to watch a happy life. When your nervous system's regulated, when, your home life is good, when the bills are paid, when the kids are fed, when the husband's, like, and yourself are happy, there's no conflict to watch.
Yeah.
It's just, "Hey, I did this. This is really awesome.
Yes.
You do it.
That
Ask me if you
reminds
want."
me, I think I was like on TikTok or something, and there was somebody talking about a beauty influencer. I think it was Monet McMichael. I can't
Mhm,
remember. And I've seen her videos here and there, and I like her. She's cute. I
mhm,
like the stuff she posts. And somebody was saying that in one of her YouTube videos, she was expressing, she was just shocked because she was getting negative feedback because people were telling her she's not relatable anymore. Like they were like, she was doing, I think she was in nursing school and trying to become an influencer. And then in this past year, she's had a lot of success. She graduated nursing school. She has a crazy amount of following. People love her. She gets sent on all these trips and everything. And people are like, yeah, you made it. And now she's always posted about what's going on in her life. And
mhm.
she's maintained that, but her life has changed. And people are like, well, I don't relate to that. You're not in the struggle with me. So you're happy and now it's not entertaining.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's like, oh,
Exactly.
well, okay, that's not fun to watch. I don't really want to hear how great your life is. And then I think that also reflects that people don't think great for them isn't available. Like,
Yeah, exactly. They think that it's so far-fetched and it's not something in their present reality,
mhm,
and that they're capable of having, and
yeah.
it's so crazy.
Yes.
So silly. It's so silly. You can have it all and then some.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. It's so
Man,
insane.
Kelsey, I could talk to you forever. Like this was so easy. I did want to give some time to for you to share your upcoming things. I know you were talking about the retreat, but if you want to promote your book and
Yeah.
also whatever else.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
So I have the poetry collection out, which is available online at Barnes& and Noble online, Target online, Amazon online. So all online just now. And it's called Yes, It's About You. It's about love and relationships of all sort, and the fact that it all brings you back home in the end. And then I also have a retreat called Sleepaway Camp for Burnt Out Bitches. It's starting, it's October 12th to 15th in Flagstaff, Arizona. So that is on my website, which is kelseytgooden.com. I'm also going to kick off Sister Circle again, and I think I'm going to do it as a weekly occurrence where women are able to gather virtually to work through different topics and learn different things, primarily through writing and journaling exercises, but also through discussion and sisterhood. So we'll do things like welcoming abundance, setting goals, operating with grief, with lack mindset, things like that.
Yeah.
And then I also do one-on-ones of all of that good stuff, of writing to heal and process and rewrite your own story. And I really enjoy those too. So those are all on my website, kelseytgooden.com.
Good, great. And I will link her website down in the show notes in case you're driving or something and can't, go to it now or don't want to remember it. I will have it linked for you guys to be able to check that out and sign up for her things. I'm so excited for my book to come in. I ordered it and it's coming on Monday. It's doing well because I ordered it off Amazon and it said, hurry, there was only 2 left on Amazon. I was like,
That's funny.
Yeah. So I'm so excited to get my copy and read it and share it. So I can't wait till it comes in.
Oh, thank you. I'm so excited. This has been so much fun.
It has. It has. Before you go, I have one question I like to ask everybody before they leave. In one sentence or less, what does living well mean to you?
Enjoying my life as much as possible.
Oh, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Just enjoying it.
That's good. That's good. Well, thank you so much, Kelsey, for your time, for the gems you dropped, for the energy that you brought, and spending the time here with me today. I can't wait for people to hear this episode.
Thank you. It's been so much fun. Thanks for having me.
Yes, you're welcome.
I hope you enjoyed this episode and that it gave you something to think about. Don't forget to subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode. All right, until next time, bye.